Hello from Kampala in Uganda today. This is a good test of my microphone today. I've got like music coming from one direction and speaking coming from another. So lots of speakers all around me blaring out noise this morning. Hopefully you'll be able to hear me clearly though. My name is Becky and I'm here to share some more thoughts from the Bible with you today. I'll be here this week, Monday, Wednesday and Friday as I continue this through this lockdown time. Thank you very much for joining me here today. Hindsight is a wonderful gift sometimes, isn't it? The ability to look back on a certain time or a certain situation and say, I understand that now. Or, maybe now knowing the consequences of my action, I really wish I'd never said those words or never done that thing, never gone to that place. You learn things with hindsight, realizing that late on a Friday afternoon is not a good time to drive in Kampala. A lesson learnt with hindsight. The traffic. Oh my goodness, the traffic. There are so many situations though that I find that it's only with hindsight that I realize how God was working. At the time, a situation can seem impossibly hard, and yet afterwards you realize how God was working behind the scenes to help you through it or to help you grow in it. How much he was using that situation to teach you to hone a certain talent or resilience that will be needed for the next phase of your life. I do love reading through the Psalms in the Bible. Many of them are just so beautifully honest, particularly the ones written by David, I find. Just look at the first couple of verses in Psalm chapter 22. My God, why have you abandoned me? Why are you so far away when I groan for help? Every day I call to you, my God, but you do not answer. Every night I lift my voice, but I find no relief. In other words, I am in this situation, God, and it sucks. This is really hard, and I hate it. I don't understand what you're doing here. I am calling out to you, and I don't seem to be getting any answers. It feels like you have abandoned me right when I needed your help the most. I'm sure we've all been there at some point in our lives. We've had moments where we felt like our prayers are falling on deaf ears, like God has been completely silent right when we feel like we needed him the most, as if he didn't even care about what was happening to us. But I just love where this psalm goes. After bemoaning his situation, David starts to talk about the glory of God instead. And eventually he gets to this point in verse 10, where he says, I was thrust into your arms at birth. You have been my God from the moment I was born. Hindsight. And we don't know exactly when David wrote this psalm, but it was as an adult, certainly. Despite being in a difficult situation at that particular moment, David could look back on his life and see that God had always been faithful to him from the moment when he was born. The Passion Translation puts that same verse in this way. It says, since the day I was born, I've been placed in your custody. You've cradled me throughout my days. I've trusted in you, and you've always been my God. When you're going through a hard time and God feels distant, it's so good to be able to look back on your life, to remind yourself how God has cradled you, protected you, at how you've trusted in him and he has always come through for you. Because he's always been your God, even when you didn't acknowledge him. When you're in a moment where life is difficult, you can look back on your life and see how he was always moving and always working on your behalf. And feel your trust growing as you realize that he is still moving and he is still working on your behalf, even if you can't understand it right now, even if you can't see it right now. That's when we can get to the point of saying, I might not understand why on earth I am going through this situation, but I trust absolutely that you are in control of it. Hindsight can be a wonderful thing. Maybe you're not in that situation at all right now, and everything's actually going pretty well. You're in a great place. You're feeling really close to God. Things are going good. Well, that is great. But this is still an important lesson to remember, because there may come a time where that's not the case, and then it can seem even harder to understand why things seem to be so hard when they were going so well. I'm not predicting doom and gloom for you, but tough times are sometimes needed in our lives to make us into the people that God wants us to be. James chapter 1 verses 2 and 3 tells us that we're supposed to consider it pure joy when we go through trials of many kinds, because we know that the testing of our faith produces perseverance. It is a lot easier to be joyful in trials when we can look back on our lives and remind ourselves that God is always there, always with us, and that he will help us through this time, just as he always has, just as he has always held us in his hands since that moment that we were born, even before we were born. He is a good God, and we can look back on our lives and see that. Thank you so much for joining me here today. I encourage you to think back today and just recognize how good God has been in your life. Even if it's hard right now, there are always moments where he has come through for us in incredible, incredible ways. I'll see you next time.